Well, Richard, we're talking about being within the QPR management, and from your perspective as assistant head coach, of course, as is well known, a former QPR season ticket holder. Firstly, just to establish, why was QPR your team of choice?
That's a good question. My dad was a former Brentford player, so the first team I went to watch was actually Brentford. And I was probably a little bit too young for it at the time. Didn't enjoy it a great deal. I watched the game, but it wasn't really anything special to me. And then one time he decided to take me down to QPR. At the time, top level club, an atmosphere around the place. I think my dad had played with Peter Hucker at some stage, and Peter Hucker was in goal, and he said, "I'm going to take you down and watch one of the guys I used to play with." And I just loved it. That was it. My first game there, and I come home and I had a scarf and bought me a flat cap. And I think when you get that first item of clothing for a side, it tends to sort of bond you to that club. So although sort of my family were all Brentford and Chiswick way growing up, QPR was a club for me, and I grew up with friends who were QPR fans. So eventually, when you're with your schoolmates, you go with your schoolmates to the club, and it just grew from there, really.
Everyone remembers their first favourite player. Who was yours?
Gary Bannister. That was the first team that I watched, and vague memories of games. I actually remember him coming back and playing for Nottingham Forest against us in a 4-3 win, and got a great reception from the loft. But yeah, I can remember Wayne Faraday and Ian Dawes and Mark Falco, John Byrne. They were the early days when I first went down there, but still very young. And then through the eras from there, obviously, the successful sides that followed.
Okay, I have a challenge for you. The first QPR 11 that you could reel off.
Right. Stejskal, Barsley, Peacock, McDonald, Wilson, Impey, Ray, Barker or Ollie, Sinton, Ferdinand, and Penrice or Gallen or Allen. Or Devon White occasionally.
You know the subs as well.
Yeah, is that all right? That's not bad.
That is very good.
Yeah.
Is that when you were a regular?
So that was when I started coming to games on my own, travelling on the bus from Hounslow with my mate. So that was our regular Saturday routine. But yeah, a season ticket in the loft at that stage, terracing, and funnily enough, funny story. I had an interview with somebody or a meeting in box 14 over the summer, and I'm talking to this person over the shoulder. There's a picture of Les scoring in the loft, and I looked above the goal, and there's me and my mate as teenagers in the photo. Yeah, so I had to really concentrate on the meeting because I kept glancing up to have a look at that. So I'll have to show my kids at some stage. There's a teenage dad picture from 30 odd years ago.
Incredible. What's your favourite QPR moment at a game that you were at?
Oh, well, great question. I remember the season we finished fifth, where we annihilated teams at home, like 4-0 Leeds, Spurs. There's not one moment that sticks out. There's some really top performances there, where as a smaller club in London, and Spurs would have seen themselves as a bigger club, but to come to Loftus Road and then get annihilated was quite sweet, watching all these clubs. So Ray's goal from 30 odd yards in the loft, I was right behind that. So lots of moments. I travelled to Old Trafford when we played in the FA Cup, got beat 2-0 and deservedly so on the day, but to have the whole end full of Rangers fans was quite special that day. So yeah, not one moment that sticks out, but a lot of real fond memories of watching the side, and a particularly good side at that.
And before you moved into professional coaching, I think back in 2001 when you went to Brentford, before then going on to Wickham, of course, when you were a regular at QPR during those days, which manager is the top manager for you from that era?
I think you've got to say Jerry Francis, because of what he achieved at that time. It was a joy to watch a side competing at the top end of the Premier League, probably on far scarcer resources than a lot of the other top clubs, and annihilating Manchester United at Old Trafford. I was actually away on a holiday in Weymouth at that stage, and I remember at a place with a dry ski slope, and I remember flying down the dry ski slope with my Rangers shirt on after that game, because you want to show the world that that's your team. So, extremely proud to be a supporter at that stage. And look, because I'm here now, it's not a jolly up. It's a job, and I know I have the sense of responsibility of what I'm here to do, and I'll do it professionally. But certainly means that little bit more, having followed the club since a kid.
Did Gerry Francis's approach influence how you view the game?
I think you probably take a little bit from everybody you watch over the years, and I've watched a lot of people. I like the way that Gerry's side played, and I had good chats with Les Ferdinand about this, about the way that Gerry set them up, and there was a little bit of everything in that side. There was a little bit of Steele, McDonald and Peacock. You didn't mess with them, but Wilson, underrated fullback, really good player. Sinton gave you a little bit of ingenuity. Ray obviously pulled the strings, and Andy was quick out wide right, very direct, and Les was at times unplayable on his day. And then you got Penrice and Allen and Gallen, who were a little bit bright around the box. So there's a little bit of everything, a real nice balance to that side. And I think when you're trying to build sides over the years, you want to find that balance that Gerry obviously found back in that era.
You've reeled off some incredible names there from yesteryear at Loftus Road. If you could parachute one of those players into the current squad, who would it be?
I think it's got to be Les, because at times he was unplayable. I think he was the player that everybody feared, and I think probably because they were so worried about him, it allowed the other really good players to flourish as well. But Les would bully centre halves. He could receive it short because he was so strong. He could run in behind. He was good in the air. It was a really difficult one to play against, because if you set up deep against him, he'd bully you on the edge of the box. If you set up high to keep him out of the box, he'd run in behind. So it was a really difficult one for people to plan to play against. And obviously he scored goals and went on to play for England and did great. So, it's a pleasure to work with him here, albeit for a brief period. It's a shame that he's not here, but he's been nothing but supportive. So they say never meet your heroes. And I don't put people on pedestals, actually, because they're just people. I've come across Mourinho and Guardiola and Pochettino over the years in my management coaching career, and they're just people. But certainly, I was really glad to spend some time with Les and share stories, and I think he's a great guy to boot.
And very finally, as a fan, and I wouldn't say a casual fan, clearly a hardcore fan back in the day, does that help you in your position now in terms of this club, the DNA of the club, what the culture of the club was historically? Does that help you in your position now?
I think it always does. Yeah. I think there's a greater affinity. I know that the club's not in as good a shape as it has been financially as in previous times, but I think as a fan, I'm glad I'm here at this moment in time to do something about that. I think if somebody else had come in and just used it as another job, just another club, it could do damage. Whereas I'll take real care over what we do at the club at this moment in time. Hopefully come out the other side and build from there. So, I think it's certainly to understand the history of the club, to understand the people around the club, and not just the fans, but the people that have been around the club for a long time that you see in reception and obviously yourself. And I think it means that much more. There's a greater affinity and a greater sense of responsibility towards delivering the very best that I can for those people.